Coming to you from that weird space between that funky dream you were having and waking up to the real world. It's the Queer Centric with your host, Queerly Johnny.
Hello to another amazing show. As always, amazing, awesome. I need to come up with different descriptive words.
You either repeat
Fantastic,
over twice or
yeah.
you say amazing.
It's either
you say, hello, welcome to another amazing show. As always.
As always, or I say, hello, hello.
Yep.
And, which is an actual really funny show on Broadway that was there for a while. Hello,
I'll take your
hello.
word for it.
But it was so good. I mean, it has John Mulaney. He's brilliant. So welcome. We are thrilled to be here. Of course, Anthony.
What's up?
Anthony Singleton, comedian extraordinaire.
I'm not
Thank
that
you for
funny.
coming in. You're not funny?
No.
Oh, I've been to your shows.
Okay, I am.
Yeah, but you have a tough uphill climb then.
Yes. Is that a short joke, motherfucker? Like what you trying to do?
See, I'm funny. You got it. Yeah.
See, there it is. That's what humor is, in case you needed it.
White and pretentious.
I'm the barometer. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So welcome, Anthony. And we have someone who's been on, probably hasn't been on for 4 or 5 months, and it is the incomparable Nathan Box. You are our own film critic. We release without comparison. People like you. I don't know why, but they do. So they love reading your articles. Always gets good feedback. So thank you for taking a minute to come back to our show. Now, people that are listening are thinking, "Oh, this has to be because the Oscars were announced." And this is what I got to say to you. We have a live event talking about the Oscars, so show your ass up. You ain't gonna get it here. So, but we are going to talk entertainment and kind of like around the Oscars, around the nominations, and what people are. Some people are pissed, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do, we just want to give you a little some shout outs. First of all, remember you can find us on Patreon. So patreon.com/thequeercentric if you love us as much as you do and you want to support us. That's a great way to do it. Also, it was just announced 2 days ago, I think, that I will be co-hosting SAN Spokane AIDS Network's Red Ribbon Gala. I've done it in the past, and we decided we're going to do it again. So partnering up with such a great organization, and for you in Spokane, the Grand Dame herself, Novocaine, and I will be sharing that stage. And I mean, that's 2 really big personalities on one stage. So everybody get ready. It's a really good cause. It's going to happen on the night of the Oscars, March 12th. Coming up, and it's going to be that evening. We're going to televise the Oscars, and Nova and I are going to be there to entertain you. There's going to be a silent auction. All the good stuff you expect from a good Red Ribbon Gala. We will be back. We'll be dressed up. I'll be in a tux. This only happens once a year. So show up and do that.
A tux?
I don't own one, no.
No.
So San is very nice and gets a tux for me for the night, and then they throw it back at people. So
I imagine one of the 70s ones. It's fucking orange.
I want the ruffles.
It looks like my grandmother's
If you know
couch.
anybody in the theater, you can steal one of their stage.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true. I like being fitted and feeling fancy first. Plus, let's be honest, certain body types are you need someone to make it look good, fit you in all the right places. So anyways, please mark your calendars for that. But before that, mark your calendar for February 25th. We talk about it every show, and we're going to talk about it with people involved in that night. It is the live event. That's entertainment, and it's going to be everything movies. Nathan is coming over, which is, making a Seattleite come over to Spokane. It's not something that happens every day.
Except
It's usually where it's just where we stop on our way to Coeur d'Alene.
Right, exactly, which is fair. And so I actually asked Nathan before we started. I'm like, so is Brandon, his fiance, is Brandon coming with you? And Brandon has reserved his answer and hasn't said yet. So I have to give Nathan's words of encouragement to convince Brandon. But it's going to be great.
No.
Yes.
Excuse me. Who the fuck goes to Coeur d'Alene?
Who goes to
Who goes to Coeur d'Alene? Why are you going there?
Seattleites?
Right.
You go for golf. I think that's the main
golf.
draw for people.
It's a little...
That's where we winter when we want a little sun.
We winter.
When you want a little sun and a little racism, you go to
Hell yeah.
Idaho.
To me, Spokane is the little
Gotta hit
brother
up that
of
Ruby Ridge Memorial.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
To me,
That's
Spokane's a little brother
Too
of
soon?
Seattle that will, like, they want to play the game with the Big Brother Seattle, so they'll unplug the controller and make them think that they're playing. And then Coeur d'Alene's the cousin that they don't talk about.
Well, the thing we all know, it's all there. Spokane always screams about, I don't want to be Seattle. We're not Seattle. And then Seattle's like, I don't know who you people are. And so we have this fun rivalry.
They don't
Fun
know how to pronounce
rivalry.
it. They're like Spokane.
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 It's kind of like
Spokane. What do you call it?
I grew up in the middle in Wenatchee, where no one can pronounce in the S. And so that's why I think I am the bridge to peace with Spokane and Seattle, right smack dab in the middle of the state. But very excited. And Anthony, you're on the show that night. Yeah. Listen, people, he's your hype man. He's going to rev you up and let you get ready for an amazing show. I had a friend write me today and say, can I bring like a bunch of people? And I'm like, yeah. Why, first of all, why are you asking? Because now I'm nervous. And I said, well, my only requirement of everybody who comes in is, will they cheer loud? Yeah. I said, we have someone who is going to make sure you know that this is a night to cheer. She promised, so I said, okay. Well, I'm going to say no, but I was just like, okay.
Well,
people are afraid.
You just can't talk about politics.
Only one politic.
Only one politic.
The only rule we are given is I am not allowed to make fun of our mayor. And listen, library, that's my one rule. Library, if you're listening, we are not. I am listening to you. We're not going to do it. Don't say anything.
There's lots of other people in Spokane City government that we can make fun of.
I saw her yesterday.
Yeah.
At the Homeless Connect. She was trying to help homeless people.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. Nathan, you work within that sector over in Seattle. Do you hear much about how Spokane is doing with our homeless population and reaching out to the unhoused?
Where is Spokane?
Good call. Near Coeur d'Alene.
It's the place that the Greyhounds show up with a bunch of homeless people to drop off in Seattle.
Yeah. We ship them your way.
That's how you got your neighbors.
Yeah, never heard of it.
No.
I don't know her.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Mariah.
It's a black name? Like
it's Mariah.
My cousin dyslexia.
I
got him to
Look
laugh.
at that.
Look at it.
Oh, yes. You just wait till that night. He does laugh, but Nathan, you have to encourage you to laugh. Because he doesn't give freebies away.
Yeah. I'm not going to fake it.
You better get an OnlyFans, motherfucker. Like, nothing's free.
It's true. Well, before we get into details, remember, everybody, mark your calendars, Saturday, February 25th. Doors open at 6:30. The show goes for 2 hours, and then we have food. It's catered for you. And it's going to be good food. I've had this caterer's food before. So stick around to meet the people who are yelling next to you and having a good time. It's going to be a show you are definitely not going to forget. Opening number, comedy, talking about films, showing what we think about the Oscars and what's coming. And there will be a dramatic moment where Nathan does, he picks his Oscar picks that night, and we're locking it in a safe. And then we will release them March 13th. So get ready. And I want you to be like Johnny Carson, how he holds it up to his head and, use your psychic powers. But you've said it to me. Tell me this. You've said this to me. You pick different things. You pick who you think should win.
Yeah.
And then you also pick.
I pick who I think the Academy is going to vote for.
Why do you think those are two different things?
I mean, we all come with our own baggage when we watch these movies, and I'm one person, and the Academy is, up to close to 10,000 people I think are members now. So,
wow.
And the Academy is rightfully so diversified over the last year. So, I mean, we're all coming to these movies with different points of view. So sometimes we end up with, wildly different picks.
How do they pick them? How do they pick who picks?
Everybody who is a member of the Academy will get screeners.
How do you
then they
become a member?
choose. Do you have to be in equity? Is that right?
So I'm not sure. I mean, if you've won an award, you're a member. If you were a part of a movie that's won an award, I think you're a member somehow. They've also just gone out to try to find leaders in the field. There are Academy members in every state. For the pictures themselves, and this may have changed kind of post-COVID world. The rule used to be that the movie had to show for 7 straight days in LA.
Right.
And I'm not sure now with streaming, I'm not sure that's the rule any longer.
Well, I do know that Bo Burnham's movie got disqualified because it was exclusively on streaming services.
Yeah.
It wasn't released in theaters. So I know that they're still being very picky about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has to be 7 days in LA, but it has to be in theaters at least.
They'll probably, because it's LA, they probably are going to still make you show in LA. But the other thing is you have to show in a certain number of theaters, is what I had read. So now it's, did you show at the threshold of how many theaters they want you to show in? I don't know if they've taken away the LA rule yet. And it can't be exclusively streaming. Like they're allowing that, you know how so many this last summer, it was simultaneous release. You can either go to the theater, so no one did, or you can watch it in your living room.
That Disney movie, Red, they were like, oh, sorry, it's on streaming.
Yeah.
But I know they got an award. It just isn't going to be.
It won't be the Oscar. Yeah, it'll
yeah.
be, it's award season. There's plenty of awards.
So is Will Smith in?
Will Smith is not allowed to show his face
For
No.
10
for
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
They
if he does, he'll
revoked his-
slap the shit out of you. That's why.
Well, and here's the thing. Will Smith had a movie that came out this year
Yes,
he
that
did.
probably should have gotten him nominated
Yep,
again.
yep.
And because he did what he did,
Yeah.
no one watched it.
No.
They didn't watch a movie about slavery, so we got screwed over because somebody got slapped
Because
again?
he was, yes.
Pretty much.
Jesus
Pretty much.
Christ.
So, yeah.
So Roots isn't making it.
No.
A lot of ass
it's-
whooping in Roots.
Yeah. Okay, and I mean, Will Smith, he's the notorious one. Isn't he, I believe, one of the first in history? They're just like, you know what, about that.
You can be violent off the stage. You just can't
Yes,
do it
yes.
on the
Hold
stage.
on, hold on.
Don't do it on camera.
There's a racial element here because Roman Polanski, right?
Well, he was
is still-
banned.
but no, he is still won
Not anymore.
awards. The Harrison Ford has flown to Europe to give him the award, and they have written letters to try to get him back in.
Well, for
the Academy.
a long, long time, he wasn't allowed his Oscar membership, but it was like 5 years ago that
was
they're
it.
like, you know what? We're just gonna. That was just silly. It was pre Me Too movement.
She was
They
an-
allowed
she's an
him
adult
in.
now.
Hey, Jonathan,
Yeah.
can you move your mic
Yeah.
stand down the tiniest bit? I can't make eye contact with Anthony.
That's fucking weird.
Oh no, we're gonna listen. We're just gonna raise.
I can see his
that.
mouth and I can see his forehead. I just can't see his eyes, which makes it feel.
Also, are we talking about slavery? Like, what's happening? What are we doing? What are,
There's no more uplifting subject than
no, this
slavery.
motherfucker says, I see pieces of you.
It's a
all.
I don't
feel.
see the whole picture.
The whole picture.
It's a feel-good moment, is what this is. So welcome to a little touch of what it'll be like on February 25th. Woo! So nothing like a little controversy to go with we talk a lot. So Anthony is one of the comedy writers. So, and of course we're all working on the show right now. So we get, anytime we get in the room, we're always like, now we have to remember that the key to comedy is pushing the envelope. And then by the end of the day, we have to be like, and then we have to bring it in a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're going to take it way out there and then
We're
just
trying to
bring
have
it
a
in.
good time too, though, right? Like,
Oh, for real.
And I think the community is what's important, right?
Yeah,
I think
very true.
allies being there. I mean, my goal is to make straight people uncomfortable,
Oh,
and I'm straight. So
It doesn't take much either.
No,
So
it doesn't.
I know. And you put up with me so well.
I mean, I'm here to write jokes that are
You-
funny, regardless.
You are in the gayest writers' room that I think.
100%.
And we all just have a good old time.
I'm glad you didn't say gay all the time.
We have a gay old time. It's going to be so. The thing to remember, everybody, is that what we don't know is we're putting a lot of work into an amazing show, all for you in Spokane. I mean, look, we're importing someone from. We won't say the S word because that might make people mad, but from a different world. He's going to come in. We have a comedy writers room that we meet every week, and we're working on monologues and jokes and everything like that. So we're putting a lot of work in to make sure that you have a good time. And so that's what's important. So perfect for that. Now let's get into, so we've been kind of talking a little bit already about the Oscars, which is the most important thing about that live event is that it's about entertainment. People ask me all the time, what does this have to do with your show? I'll tell you what it has to do with your show. This is a bridge. This is everybody can celebrate movies, and we all love entertainment, music, movies, comedy. That is for everyone, and we all find that moment. That's the importance of this. In that audience, you're going to find just everybody who wants to have a good time. Doesn't matter if you're queer, if you're straight, if you're Anthony, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, and I think movies bring people together,
Oh, right.
and they're
Unless they star Will Smith. And then no.
Then he slaps the shit out of people.
And then no one's gonna watch.
He slapped Chris Rock of all people. Like, you don't slap
Right?
him. Like, slap someone that needs
I feel
it.
like he thought he was safe because Chris Rock is a friend. And Chris Rock is like, oh hell no.
Yeah, but he has a brother though from New York.
Boy, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't go well. And look, like if we were wondering if they would stick to their guns and because we're in America, we tend to go back on things. We're like, oh, okay, it's been a week. We're good. The news cycle has changed. But we're not. The people are still not loving this. So he's still, I mean, like we just said, his new movie, getting no love at all. So, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing: is again, that takes away from what the movie is about.
Yep.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
right? Unfortunately, this is a topic that people still struggle to talk about because history is kind of like fucking lasered over all of our trauma, right? We go from AIDS for the LGBTQ, right? We go
Right.
AIDS, everything's fine. Like no, there's a fucking quilt that says things are not fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And let's not say the word out loud.
Right.
Yeah,
and then and for African Americans, it's like, well, middle passage, slavery, Obama. Like
yeah. They're like, listen, we elected Obama, so
Yeah, like,
all bets are off. We're
we
doing
still
good.
haven't seen his birth certificate, but we like him, right? And so it's that kind of shit. And I really wish that a movie like that would get more press.
Do you know what's even worse is I think about those writers who worked hard on writing this movie, the actors who were so excited to be in this movie. No one knew that all of a sudden last year Will Smith was going to
Sweep the legs out from
everything
under
down.
this movie.
Yeah,
didn't know.
What is
He
the
didn't
name?
know.
What is the name of the movie?
Emancipation.
Okay, I knew it was something with a patient at the end.
Yeah.
With the patient. at
With
the
a
end.
patient.
Well, the
Constipation.
only thing I heard about that movie was that Will Smith was mad at his co-star for spitting on him. That's the only thing I heard about the movie.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah,
He
got-
would not talk to Will Smith, from what I heard. Like,
Yeah.
As far as being like a slave driver, he would not talk
Right.
to Will Smith. But actors are finicky and weird anyway. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yes, they are.
They're weird as fuck. Like,
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey in Dallas Buyers Club, he gave himself diabetes.
It's a process.
It is.
It's a
To get
process.
diabetes, you're absolutely right. It's
Yes.
years of shitty eating. Like that's, but
Yeah,
that
years, and he's
movie-
like, I want to speed that up.
But that movie, I think as a person of color too, there's trauma making it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because
There
you're
has to be.
reliving this thing,
Yep.
this traumatic thing that happened to your people, right? And you put that aside for your art.
And so this is a conversation Nathan and I, in a way, we're talking about earlier, but it is, where is the give and take? Right now, everybody's criticizing the Oscars because there's a lack of representation of queer actors playing queer people and queer directors being nominated. It's the same thing. There's this give and take. Like, are we going to take away the good that Emancipation could have done because we need to punish Will Smith? Where is... Do we have to weigh it like, we're Egyptian afterlife and you have to decide what is better and what is worse and how we go forward? It's the same idea of where is the message more important than, the things the mechanisms behind the scenes. And Nathan, when you come at it, we talked earlier and you're like, well, I have a different opinion about representation. And I'm like, good. We like a little controversy. So,
Little sauce.
Well, I will say I have been watching this award show for 30 something years, and I cannot remember a moment in time where everyone was completely happy with everybody that got nominated and everyone that got snubbed.
Never.
So I've yet to experience that award show where everything went exactly right. And I think we talked about this last time I was on, because we talked about Harry Styles and My Policeman, and
Yep.
I know he's a little
Yeah.
fluid on his
Right. And people are like,
traction.
queer baiting is, yeah. Like it's
But-
never happened before.
I personally want the role to go to the best actor possible, and I am not offended when a straight person plays gay. It just does
I'm not
not
either personally.
Thank
bother
you.
me in the least bit. I watched The Well, and not once did I think in that almost 2 hours, I can't believe they cast Brendan Fraser, a straight guy,
Right.
a cisgendered guy, to play a gay guy. Not once. instead, I was enraptured by the performance.
And I don't
And
think
so
a lot of people are, you know what I mean? What's also interesting is a lot of the same people aren't mad about that because he did such a amazing, respectful portrayal, as good actors will. And so what is fascinating to me is, as the queer community, are we flirting with shooting ourselves in our own foot? Because if we have to play by that rule, aren't we also saying that we as queer actors can't play straight roles? You know what I mean?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander, to show how old I am. Because so it's weird because I fit in the middle where I understand the need for representation, but the art form, I think, first of all, it's acting. Like, putting yourself in another person's character, that's what acting is.
It's not that it's just acting. It is pretending to be someone else.
Right.
For the enjoyment of other people.
Well, pick a movie, you know. It's like, how dare you play a veteran? How dare you play someone with AIDS? How dare you play, you know, someone in the 80s? I don't know.
And that means we can...
Wait a goddamn minute. Wait a goddamn second. Okay, I have a couple things
Bring
to say
this
here.
hammer down.
Let's remember film in its entirety, right? 1930s, one of the highest grossing movies of that time is Birth of a Nation, right?
Oh, wow.
Where the Ku Klux Klan did not burn crosses until they saw that movie. Responsible for a rebirth of Ku Klux Klan of 2 million people, including children.
I did not know this.
Okay? It was played in the White House, and there were people that were black, they were in blackface. And there's this iconic scene, right, where this woman like throws herself off a cliff rather than be ravaged by a black man, a white guy is in blackface. So this is a lot deeper than representation all the time, right? It's why are you doing it? It's not that you're doing it. Tell me why.
Well, then isn't it this weird line? Because as you were saying, I mean, I'm not okay with some white guy playing a black guy. I'm not okay with Tilda Swinton playing an Asian man. Because so it's this weird thing. We would be up in arms if someone was in blackface playing, and we should be. But you know how it's that line of, well, you know, we need to give queer actors, but also, just statistically speaking, there are a lot of gay actors, and at the same time, there are still more heterosexual actors than there are gay actors, at least gay actors. Right. But it is this fine line, because where do we say, this is not okay, but this is okay?
Right, and then you would know production code, right? Production code in Hollywood was a big deal. Like some of Alfred Hitchcock's movies where you can't have two brothers that are serial killers. Now they have to be two gay serial killers.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They had to sexualize that character because they didn't want their image being negative.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's really what we're talking about. Is it negative imagery? Right?
That's
Are you
true.
doing something negative? If you're a homosexual serial killer played by a straight guy, we have a problem. Because why are you making this content? Is it historical or are you doing it to be an asshole?
Yeah. Is it accurate? I mean, it's the same thing we've done for trans people. When I was growing up, there were these movies where it was super awful because it was the trans person who was killing everybody. And so we do the same thing. You know,
or the
with these
horror
different-
plot twist at the end is that they are a trans person.
Right. And it's like, oh,
Surprise!
Yeah.
let's train the audience to hate these people. But that's where it gets. Do you find you're just talking in your life and you're mentioning that you feel like you don't need like you're okay with a straight guy playing a gay guy? Do you find any blowback from that?
No, I haven't. And I want to say that I think, you know, representation is super important, and I want the diversity of stories that are coming out of Hollywood. I want that number to grow.
Right.
I'm tired. You know, there are certain types of stories that I'm tired of hearing about, and I find that these stories that are more diverse in the representation are, you know, better empathy machines, and ultimately that's what the movies should be, in my opinion. I think the breadth of stories that are being told, not in the cinema, but on your television screen as well, are more diverse than they've ever been in the history of entertainment. I think, you know, let's take a breath for a second and celebrate the fact that that's happening, that we are hearing from more audiences than ever before. That no longer are, you know, trans people typecast to one type of character, that they're always a villain, or the gay guys are always the villain, that they're often the heroes of the story.
Yeah.
Like, can we not glaze over that, and can we at least pause for a moment and celebrate it?
Yeah. And I think, I think of people who go through trauma. All of us have it at some level, but people who go through trauma are trained to have to take these horrible things, right? So it's easier to see the bad than to be able to see and go, okay, it's not. Someone just called me on this shit the other day, and I was like, oh crap. To be able to see the good that comes in and not just train yourself, because we're so used to it, to see the bad. Because I think you're right in the fact that there are so many really amazing stories being told. Look at Everything Everywhere All at Once. 11 nominations. It's about the relationship of the mother and her lesbian daughter. And I don't know. I'm guessing that the lesbian daughter actress is apparently not identify as gay, because I'm like, we should be, first of all, the Asian community. What a wonderful thing, the representation there. And at the same time, oh my goodness, it's about finding the love of your queer child.
Have you seen it?
I have, absolutely.
You think it was good?
Oh no.
It's probably, if I were to pick right now, it'd be my pick for Best Picture.
Really? I didn't think it was good.
You didn't like it?
No, I needed to rewatch it again. I'll rewatch it again, but I didn't think it was that good.
So on this show, we shame Anthony into not just kidding.
No, I mean, hey, it's not even about that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm just gonna say this: I didn't like Moonlight either.
Oh, really?
I didn't like the movie. I liked Brokeback Mountain.
Oh, I like that too.
I liked the movie.
Both.
I thought the content was good. I thought the story was good. What it represented in that time period was great.
So you just didn't find something that you could connect to in this movie. It is a weird movie. It is an odd.
I'm gonna watch it again.
An odd movie.
Okay.
But I get that. It's not going to land with everyone. It's so many things in there a little off. I'm thrilled that Jamie Lee Curtis got nominated for an Oscar for it. I'm like, I love this woman. She was shocked as shit. She was like, what? Thrilled, because she's been such a cheerleader for everybody else in that movie, because they've all gotten. And then someone tells her she got nominated for an Oscar, and she's just like, what?
She's like, how?
Did they read my name right? Because I don't know.
I mean, this woman has been in Hollywood for a long time,
Yes.
and typecast in one kind of movie that can never really end. And the joy of seeing her do something else was
right. Well, I can remember through the years her doing comedy. I can remember, but we do love her as a scream queen. We love her, but she's always been so diverse, and she's fine with how things work out. She loves her life, and that's why I think it was such a fun reaction to watch happen, because she was so floored. Because just look at the Golden Globes, how excited she was for all of her co-stars. She truly wanted to celebrate them. So I think it was a good moment to see that she got to do that. So what's good is watch it again.
I will.
And if you don't like it, just say, I'm curious about this. Just whatever it is, if you're like, I tried it again and
it could be because it was bootleg. Brothers be watching bootleg movies. That could be the problem. I'm not gonna lie to you. You bootleg movie, you got a brother standing up in the middle. I don't know. I'll try to watch it.
Did you see the microphones that should get their own credit? Oh yeah, that's a bootleg.
Eating popcorn in the movie, just throwing popcorn at each other. I think it was a fist fight. It was in Compton. It was fucked.
Yeah, maybe watch the official.
So my mama was in there. It was.
But I'm glad to hear that that you think that was 11 nominations is nothing to sneeze at, which was really good. But I believe, did the director get nominated?
The director, the Daniels did. Yeah.
Oh, did. There was one of the movies that's nominated where the director didn't, and that started this whole conversation if it was a woman director and and then someone was saying, well, they gave it to Jane Campion last year, and they thought that should get the ladies by for another 50 years.
Okay, hold on. What are the nominations for Best Picture this year?
There is a list.
We expect you to know off the top of your head.
Well,
he has a link. He's not. Here we go.
The Whale, right? Which I need to see.
Yes.
All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar, The Way of the Water,
Pretty good.
The Banshees of Inisherin,
That's right.
Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking.
Yeah.
How the fuck did Top Gun
To-
make it in there?
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
That's how. But I will say today's the first day I heard of women talking, but I hear it's very good. But I had not heard of that film.
It's phenomenally written.
What people need to know about Nathan is he will watch all of the nominees before the day of the Oscars. You are very committed to your craft and making sure you see all of these things. Because not only do you always see a movie, typically every Sunday, and he goes with his notebook, and it is an experience actually to go with Nathan to see this, but you do that every Sunday, and then the Oscars come out, and you're like, oh, I need to make sure I see these 20 movies also. You know, you're all in.
Well, I mean, you know, it's my favorite pastime in the world is going to the cinema, and I've, you know, ever since I was a little kid, I've just loved this award show. I love the pomp and circumstance of it. I love kind of getting a group together and watching and debating. Or you have a moment like last year where we're all aghast and our mouths are on the floor because we're trying to figure out why someone has slapped someone else. But yeah, I love it all. I worked really hard. Last year was the first year that I got everything on. Everything was nominated. I watched everything, and I'm gonna do my best to do it again this year.
But I think
great point. They're great. I mean, we were living in a pretty great time because the majority of this stuff is already streaming, and it's pretty easy to find. Even the documentaries and the foreign films, which have typically been the hardest ones to find.
Isn't there a gay documentary? I just heard about it today. That's nominated for an Oscar. It has a very sexualized name.
Oscar baiting?
That should be one actually.
Oh Jesus, he was waiting for that all day.
He wrote that joke
did.
earlier. He's like, I'm gonna get it in. But there is I saw it on something, somebody was mentioning it this morning, that there is a sexualized about these two gay guys, and it's a documentary. I think it's short form, but anyways, this is to jump off that and say, boy, there is a category for everyone, which is what's fun about the Oscars. And they do tend to expand. We were talking pre-show about there didn't used to be 10 Best Picture nominations. It used to be, when I was a kid, 112 years ago, there were 5. And so it has expanded, which what is making some people mad is they're like, now we have more options than ever, and you're still not diversified enough. But will we ever be? I don't think so. Do we need to do better? Yeah, look at what happened to the Golden Globes. You know, people came down hardcore on them a couple years ago about not being diversified enough, and they've worked very hard. And there's a lot of jokes going on about them, but you know, Hollywood Foreign Press, they needed to do better, and so things began to change.
And they did better, and just throwing this out here, nobody watched it.
Nobody.
It was the lowest audience of. They didn't even hit 1 million people watching that.
Well,
show.
last year NBC wouldn't even run it, and so this is their first, and it was like, we're back, we're gonna do good, and everybody's like, oh, was that on? I wasn't able to do that, and and then of course after everybody went to the Golden Globes, what was it? 70% of those people got COVID. So you know, it's an interesting place in LA right now. Yeah, they love it. But yeah, and so now I'm like, well, what's going to happen to the Oscars? Hopefully they've had enough time to get better, and then they can all go to the Oscars. Or they'll just recycle. And here we go again. But we're going to talk a lot on the night of, we're giving the audience, the entire audience will also have ballots so that they can make their choices, because it's fun to put Nathan on the spot. So actually, I always appreciate this is who should have won, and reading that afterwards, and then who you think, you're pretty accurate, especially on who you think the Academy is going to pick. That's your superpower. Yeah, for
sure.
Speaking of putting Nathan on the spot, do you keep up with the Razzies? Are you as passionate about the Razzies as you are about the Oscars?
I don't think a critic who's worth their weight spends time making worst of the year list.
Oh.
See, that's good.
And I think it's a travesty to nominate a 12-year-old girl as the worst actor of the year.
Yeah.
And they should be ashamed of themselves.
When did that happen?
It happened. Yeah.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
Jesus
exactly.
Christ, who's the girl for?
12-year-old girl.
Yeah. Just.
Is that
and
the name of the girl?
What movie was that? I remember knowing that it was
remember.
like a moment of, hey guys, we know about, teasing people and stuff, but you have taken it to a place that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
It's like
horrible.
bullying.
That's horrible.
Bullying
It
that poor girl into that. Yeah. I mean,
I just don't understand why we want to spend time tearing down other people's art. It just makes no sense to me. Like, and I get it. These are famous people and they're worth loads of money and they should be able to take the punches, but I just would rather celebrate it than tear it down.
Exactly. You know how you vote for the one you don't like? Don't go. Don't pay money. Don't support it. But also, don't be a dick. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, because we all know everybody in this room has their creative outlets and the things that are important to us. The amount of work that goes into you doing a comedy show, having to host a comedy show, having to write those jokes. There's so much blood, sweat, and tears that it's just not right. If you're not going to get up there and do your own, don't tear down somebody else's. It's ridiculous. So see, another great reason why I wanted him on the show, because that's exactly what our show's about and exactly what the live show's about.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
All Quiet on the Western Front. What'd you think?
I haven't seen it yet.
And this
I
is
loved it.
this isn't.
I'm going to watch it on Friday.
It's foreign, right? It's from a
It's a German film.
German. Yeah.
That's the only way it should be made, if you ask me. Like, it was perfect.
I mean, I remember that was required viewing when I was in high school, the original. And so we watched it. Nathan gets these little twinkles in his eye. He's like,
I mean, it did
got a
come out
joke.
in 1930. You can watch it the day it was released.
I did. I actually helped. I actually helped film it.
Oh,
Yeah.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
He did opera for the movie, but they couldn't hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
That movie was
He
phenomenal.
doesn't speak a lick of German, so he had to drop it.
Exactly. So did you watch the German one that's up for the Oscar now?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I thought it was historically accurate.
Yeah.
I thought the visual effects were great. I think that in war there are no winners.
Not
and
one.
I think war films have to show that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge World War I and World War II buff. I study it often, and so the trench warfare alone.
Yeah.
And how brutal it was, and the little things, the details, right? The rats, the lice, these different things that are happening are super important.
And those moments that you're like of humanity.
Right.
That's the thing. They also wrote a musical about it, and Spokane was lucky enough to do that musical about 6 years ago. Right. And it's because the moment is so strong and amazing, and especially with the juxtaposition of war and these people are supposed to hate each other. I don't know. There's brilliant moments of humanity in the story.
It's human. Like, have you ever read the book The Sunflower?
No.
Have you ever read the book? It's about a
the
guy
Sunflower.
It's a guy in the Holocaust, right? Edward Said, who becomes a Nazi hunter, actually, in real life. He ends up going to his city or his town that everyone's been killed in. And long story short, he's at his old high school has been turned into a Nazi hospital. And there's this kid laying on the table, 22 years old, and the kid's dying. He's a Nazi, and he asked Edward for his forgiveness, right? The impact of that, the humanity of it, right? Like, this guy goes back to a concentration camp at night. Yeah. And this is a real story. Like, the Dalai Lama's in the back commenting on it. Wow. Right? You have all these people commenting about forgiveness. And it's the human side. And what you find out is this kid wasn't a Nazi, right? He grew up Catholic. Yeah. But he was radicalized, right?
What's it called?
It's called The Sunflower. So the thing about that movie as well is that what you see in All Quiet on the Western Front is these kids are just that, kids. When they leave to go to war, they're like, yeah. Then when they get there, they're like, shit.
Right. I've heard phenomenal things about it.
The Academy loves a war movie, and there's probably one nominated every year. And there's probably, I mean, there's the very first film to ever win is a war movie. They love it because, I mean, it's heightened drama on all fronts. I mean, it is the worst and best of humanity. It is violence. It is an opportunity to show kind of like the best kind of forms of cinematography. It just usually does so many things right. And then those movies lose, like Shakespeare in Love, and everyone gets it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. Do you think there's this, I always picture that the Oscars need one of the movies to give them a reason to pat themselves on the back, and then they're like, oh, because we did that, we actually can do what we want. It's their get out of jail that year. And I feel like that happens a lot. I feel like they do it more often than they used to, but maybe they've always done it and they were just better at hiding it.
Yeah, we always get a war movie. We always get a period piece,
Yeah.
and then we always get something that's somehow related to the magic of making movies.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And the biopic, of
The
course.
Spielbergs. Yeah, yeah. Which is both this year.
Right.
The biopic and the magic of making movies. So rumor has it. Well, I don't want to get into that, but because we're going to talk on the live show about who we think would take Best Picture through this whole situation. But what I am more fascinated with is that you were just saying, and we've said throughout this, which is the power of that uniforming, that bringing us all together of art.
Yep.
Like we can, it's almost like, especially for some people, you can forget some of what is in your wiring to be bigoted, to be, homophobic, to be, and movies can take you beyond that. And all of a sudden you're touched by The Whale, movies that wouldn't necessarily have reached people, but because of the art of film, it can change your whole life. Look how many of us, like, you're addicted to film. When was that moment that you were like, oh, this is everything?
Oh, it was at a young age. I mean, it was probably the first movie I ever can remember seeing, which was Batman, starring Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
there you go.
I was enamored. These toys that I had played with in my bedroom, like somebody took that idea and built a whole world around it.
That's exactly what they wanted you to do.
Exactly. They were smart.
Yeah.
But that's the crazy. So that makes me want to go around the room. So in my family, I kind of hate that I grew up and was able to access film so easily, because when I grew up, we were poor and we didn't go to the movies a lot. So every time we got to, it was this, I remember the feeling of it being this crazy special moment that didn't seem real in time. And so in the beginning, when I was just a kid, my parents would take us to the drive-in because it was more affordable. And my very first movie was Empire Strikes Back. And I remember, and that was my moment. That was my moment, like, what the hell? And so anytime we would go, and here's the scary part. We went to Empire Strikes Back, we saw Return of the Jedi, and then I didn't see another movie until Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin got together for Big Business. So, I mean, but every moment was so amazing. And now I'm an adult, I love movies, I can go anytime, and I hate that the magic isn't as magical. I enjoy movies for a different reason now, but I miss the magic. So that was my magical movie moment. What was the first movie you ever saw, Tom?
Do you mean in theaters?
Whatever was that first time you... Well, yeah, what's the first movie wherever you saw it, and then seeing it was like, oh, wow, that's cool.
The first movie I remember seeing at all in theaters, because I did not grow up in a house that ever would spend money. That was like, just wait for it to be on VHS. Go to the library and pick it up there.
You said a lot when you said VHS.
Yeah. First one I remember seeing, and I don't even remember it well, is the Rugrats movie.
I loved the Rugrats movie. Wow.
I don't know if that was my magical movie moment.
How old am I?
But that's the first one I could barely remember.
Rugrats was the shit.
I loved them, but it was definitely nowhere near my first movie because I was way old. So, did that movie, when you saw it, was your experience like, this is really cool? Whatever's happening here, that's cool.
Yeah, well, I think it blew my mind. I'm like, wait, this looks so much better than the TV. And of course, at that age, you don't realize how much money goes into a movie versus a TV show. But it's like, why does it look better? And so I've always been interested in animation, but I'm sure that's one of those first things that happened that made me really sort of...
I can still binge the Rugrats just because it's just, to me, it's timeless.
Well, just because it's animated better doesn't mean it's better. But I remember thinking, why are these different? And then that sort of introduced me to thinking, and I'd see like the Aladdin TV show. And I'd be like, what is wrong? Like, I was thinking, what is wrong with this?
You're like, why is
this
was trash?
Cheap. Yeah. But yeah, that kind of interested me in animation as a whole. I don't know if it was movies, but it was animation for me.
There was a Aladdin TV show?
For like a hot minute, yeah.
Okay.
Listen, we don't need to remember bad things.
They had Dan Castellaneta play the genie instead of Robin Williams. So
who I respect, but yeah.
Not the same.
What was your first magical movie moment?
No, I have to pick two because I think that growing up in the 80s, right, there was... everything I loved was white.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
you weren't given a lot of options.
No, everything I loved was white, right? And I remember that movie Iron Eagle came out.
Oh my gosh.
That was my shit. I loved it. But the first time I saw Boys in the Hood. First time I ever saw Boys in the Hood was because for me, my dad's 20 years military, right?
Yeah.
And my parents, we moved here from Guam. So I had never seen the projects or heard of the projects. I didn't know the plight of black people.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't living that life. and I had never been to America, right? So when I got here, it was N-bombs and racism, but I had never experienced that. So that movie kind of opened up this window of what my life could have been had my parents chose something different.
And critically acclaimed that.
I think you bring up an interesting question. It's like, because, you know, like the kind of first movie you remember watching, all white cast kind of thing. And that had me thinking, like, what was a movie that I remember watching with an all black cast that kind of like opened up my eyes? And please don't make fun of it.
This is going to be good.
I remember the first time watching Friday. And
Shit.
Like there's a world of humor out here that I am not finding in my small little Oklahoma town. And like the movies allowed me to access a world that maybe I would have never found before.
Exactly. Friday
changed everything.
It was written for nothing. Like the movie was cheap, right? But it gave you everything, right? It gave you drug addiction, right? She's like, can I dub a tape? You know, can I borrow your VCR? A dude, you know, you had humor. A guy who didn't have a job who sold drugs, was a drug dealer, a bad drug dealer, right? Ice Cube couldn't keep his job, right? Everybody could identify with their parents saying, "Get the fuck out of my house." Yeah. Which every time I'm here, you in the kitchen. Yeah. Right? Like eating the goddamn refrigerator. Like it had everything. And then like most movies, the hero wins the girl.
Yeah.
Right. And knocks out the bully. So it had all the things that every movie should have, but it was for us.
Yeah.
Right. And that's cool.
I remember that being the movie that you could go to school and it seemed like everybody saw it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It stopped for a lot of those white kids. They were like, oh, my parents will let me see this. It's a little, but they're like, okay. It was the first time they were able to have that connection over.
Right. And it came back. Remember, everybody said, bye, Felicia.
Yeah.
They don't even know where the fuck that came from.
Right.
Exactly. They have no idea.
That is one of my favorite phrases.
It is, right? Yeah. But that movie was iconic. Yeah. Iconic. And then it also created careers for some of these men who would be juggernauts.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think the first time I remember consuming something that was like an all-black cast, and I think it might have been Bernie Mac.
Was it Roots?
No, I'm thinking TV shows.
There's white people in there too. They kicking our ass.
For movies, I genuinely can't remember what the first one would be. But for TV shows, I remember it was Bernie Mac or it was My Wife and Kids. I remember never thinking twice about it being an all-black cast because it didn't really, it just didn't affect anything in the story really, which is maybe a bad thing that they maybe should have had more stories focused on that.
Oh, they whitewash everything on TV.
So now I want to pick your brain because the NAACP, right? They asked me to do this thing at the theater where I host and tell comedy, but we played 3 sitcoms from like different generations and what the impact is of those sitcoms in that time period and why they're important. So somebody else is doing music, I'm doing comedy sitcoms, right? So I was like Blackish, maybe the Jeffersons. Yeah. Or maybe the Dave Chappelle, actually.
Yeah, that would
that'd be really good. And then we were talking about doing Good Times.
I remember watching Good Times.
Or Sanford and Son, right? And so I would love to pick your brain about that because that is something that is pivotal, right? In this country's history is why did George Jefferson call people crackers? Why was it a big deal? Well, because there's no brothers living in that high rise.
Well,
no.
You know, I know we don't say his name above a whisper any longer, but we have to remember the Cosby Show was the biggest show on television,
on Earth.
And it was all black family.
I remember 100%. My dad was okay with us watching the Cosby Show.
He was a gynecologist.
And he was, Oh.
Foreshadowing anyone?
I know, and now he's on tour.
Have you seen that movie? Have you seen that clip from the show where they're like, boy, everybody really liked your ribs? And he's like, it's the secret ingredient in my barbecue sauce.
I probably watched it with my family.
But Bill Cosby was the biggest comedian on earth.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to also comment while we're on the show talking about it. There were no black stuntmen until Bill Cosby. They were all in black hand, right? Like they put a glove on and shit.
Right.
Like this is a nigga hand, right? Like, but Bill Cosby refused to do movies until there were black stunt people. So he's iconic in that sense, and that's what makes it so messed up. He's the first black family that is healthy.
But don't you think that brings up a good point. Basically, we have to remember that there are many facets. Hollywood likes there to be, you fit in this category, when this is where you're allowed to play, this is your lane. In the end, humans are both beautiful and problematic and horrible and there's people who, the parents of Dahmer loved him. It doesn't erase that this was not good. You know what I mean? So you almost have to go, okay, you're right. We have to remember, open these doors. It does not erase what he did or how he needs to be punished, but we have to remember.
But white people get away with it.
But what I'm saying is no one should. Yeah.
No, but I mean, it depends on your value. It depends on your value. And it's funny that we're talking about film because film is supposed to be all those things. We're supposed to see the nasty, the good.
Yeah.
Like it's human, right? But then someone does something human and then all of a sudden the film's no good.
Like the Will Smith thing.
It's bullshit, right? But
we do have to, I believe, greatly in consequences, but I also believe we do get lost in, because Hollywood needs us to get lost in it, because that's how the machine works. Because they work on, I don't trust anything Hollywood says. They work on controversy. They work on these things that it isn't about what we need to talk about, which is consequences for horribleness.
Right.
You know what I mean?
you can be a bad person and be a good actor.
I was going to say,
Yes.
I've always been,
Yeah.
I've always believed that you should be able to separate the artist from the art, because there's still some, the Cosby Show, the impact of that show wasn't changed just because Bill Cosby was this horrible person.
Right.
The change that it made in the film industry, the TV industry and the film industry is still there.
Right.
And it changed sitcoms forever. And, so that's still there just because he's this, awful person. I don't know.
That's why I still think, as people need consequences, like they don't need to be rich and then we forget about it. So we need to recognize what they did or their contribution, as well as say, oh, this is horrible and we need to have consequences now, but let's not forget that we came here because of these things. But we had this very interesting conversation in the writer's room one day about, what's his name again? I forget it.
What are you saying? You talking about R. Kelly?
I'm talking about R. Kelly.
It's the remix to Ignition.
Because, it's that same conversation.
He makes hits, man. I'm sorry.
But I don't
Is
want to
his music
reward
bad
him
now?
with money.
That's what they
I
say.
don't want to reward him with money. And so it is this weird dichotomy of us trying to figure out how do we have consequences and yet still understand.
Where I tend to stand on it is me not consuming something that I enjoy inconveniences me inevitably, infinitely more than R. Kelly would profit from me streaming his music.
See, but
once.
in something like that, I disagree. There has to be, you either stand for something or you stand for nothing.
Yeah, I don't fuck with
So
R.
I
Kelly.
still feel like there is
But I don't listen to him regularly. I'm just saying when it comes to other things like
Tom,
for instance,
every day, he's
for instance,
this is how I start my day.
Harry Potter. That's
Yeah.
a good example.
Yeah.
I like Harry Potter, and I would lose something in my life if I didn't get to enjoy those movies and
Right.
that universe.
Right.
So despite J.K. Rowling being what she is now,
horrible woman.
yeah, that has a better impact on my life than
Yeah.
my positive impact on her life by consuming what she puts out there.
But here's the thing. If that money, if that revenue that's been generated from that art directly affects people that are being hurt, that's a fucking problem.
That's
Sure.
where we have to. So that's where it is. And listen, we can say right here that anybody who doesn't say this is a very difficult conversation or to understand where we would be lying, because it's a conversation. But I will say right now on the show, people, if this gets you talking, send us a letter. I'd love to hear what you think, because the conversation is the important part.
Yeah.
Saying, okay, where are we going? What have we learned? You know what I mean? Nathan, what's your most controversial person that you... I'm kidding. But
Controversial what?
person that you just love.
Louis C.K.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
100%.
I just had a conversation about him the other day.
I thought you were going to say
He's
with him.
hilarious.
Yeah, with me and Louis.
I mean,
That's,
he can't walk. He can't walk into a room without masturbating. But besides that, I mean, I think he's a funny.
we
funny
wish he
guy.
would. He's lived in New York too much, because every time he gets on the A train, someone is.
Just jacking it everywhere he goes. Just
But you know what's fucked up? How
going
come
to
we can
town.
watch? How come? Okay, so Charles Manson, horrible person.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
how many documentaries or TV shows
So
have been
many.
made about this guy over the
Yeah.
last 40 years?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
okay though? Like exploitation of, he can
Right.
even generate revenue himself really. But I'm just saying, like the victims are affected by it. Like how are we going to pick what we do?
And that's the hard part. And I think the most important thing is we don't there's not jackasses out there going, I'm going to love him and I hate you because you don't. Or there needs to be both sides, but there needs to be the conversation. Well, look, I was just talking to a friend about Louis C.K. the other day. He is slowly, and he's doing it he is quietly coming back. He's doing more and more, and it's growing, but he's not being
quietly
out there.
coming back.
Yeah, he's quietly.
Bill Cosby's touring the country
I
this
know.
spring.
Bullshit.
Oh my
It's
God.
bullshit.
Yeah. And everybody who's going is 82 because they couldn't remember what he did anyways.
I saw his depositions, man. Disgusting.
I know. Oh,
and he got back. He got out on a technicality.
More,
yeah, he's
more
disgusting.
And more. Yeah, that. Don't get me started on why they released him. But yeah, so I mean, these are the things. These are the real conversations. Like if you want to look at art, this is part of really loving art is understanding that there are tricky conversations that need to be had about those kinds of situations. We need to talk about them because that helps us, I think, come together as a society to find ourselves and to find our bridges, is to have these uncomfortable, awkward conversations. And because art is something that everybody at some level loves, and whether it's film, music, books, any of them, or, paintings and drawings, there are these conversations that exist in every single one of them, and we have to be okay with having those conversations about them. That's the joy. That's the whole point of art.
I do have one last thought this is just a thought experiment. The Weinstein Company has so many popular movies. Do people boycott those movies?
Do we not
because
watch
Weinstein,
any of them? Right, because of him?
Just as an example, like to me, that it's hard to know because to me, whenever I see something, I'm like, someone involved with this is an awful person that is profiting when they shouldn't be. Well, it's just easier to see that when the person is the main person involved in it.
And let's be honest, every single movie in Hollywood probably has some problematic shit, right? So I think there's a threshold. Yeah, there is a threshold. And someone asked me the other day, I was listening to your show. You had this really great conversation, but you didn't have an answer at the end. I'm like, because this is real shit that we're talking about. If I had the answers, I wouldn't be talking about it. That's the whole point of conversations. It doesn't mean you're going to find the end-all solution, but it means you have to start thinking about it. So if you're listening to the show expecting us to, Scooby-Doo it and tie it up in a nice little knot, I don't know what show can do that unless you lie. But that's not why we're here. We're here to say, we talked about some things that made my tummy a little, and that's good. So now, what do you think about the same thing? I love that we have this has been a broad conversation.
Have you seen Velma yet? It was awesome.
I've watched the first 2 episodes.
Velma's awesome.
You like it?
Yeah. Why wouldn't I?
I've watched the first 4 episodes.
I thought it was pretty good.
You thought so? Okay.
I thought it was hilarious.
I'm just sort of tired of Mindy Kaling's jokes being super similar.
This fucking guy with Harry Potter, and he's like, "Oh, Velma, fucking Velma, that shit was trash."
Also, so here's my thought.
18 Harry Potter movies.
Hold on, let me justify what I'm saying. We've had Scooby-Doo for 60 years, and then she takes all these characters and changes everything about them to fit them into a story, just so it has I know the Scooby-Doo series. I'll watch that show. It should have just been different characters.
I'm gonna need you to shut the fuck up.
They also got rid of Scooby-Doo.
Shut it.
I will say that's the one thing I was like, where's Scooby? I will say this.
Talk, bitch. Okay.
In 60 years, they have redone that so many times that I don't mind that there's a new take on it. I don't mind that. But I am sad because I'm like, where's Scooby? And I'm like, how can you have Shaggy and not have him have a pot issue?
I think it's a fine TV show. It's just not a good Scooby-Doo show.
Motherfucker, how you criticizing your own community? That's a dickhead thing to do.
The dog community?
You like black parents, motherfucker. That's what you are. Like black parents be like, "Oh,
thanks for joining us today, Nathan." So I'm so glad you were able to be here. But let's wrap it up. Those are the kind. I like that conversations, though. I actually watch. I watched the first however many episodes of Velma, but that should be its own show. We could totally have a whole show on it. But Nathan, everybody who's listening, Nathan Box, you can read his articles, his reviews of movies. You can watch it. You can go to thequeercentric.com. I put them out on all the socials when we get one out. People always have something to say, and I think that's great. I mean, that's the whole purpose of it. Remember, you can catch him live if you like him that much, and you're in the Spokane area. Please show up to our live show. It's going to be so fun. And talking, as you can tell, talking movies with Nathan, there's never a lack of things to talk about.
Can I plug a couple shows?
Of course,
okay.
Please.
So next weekend I have shows back to back.
I'm just kidding. Go.
Back to back.
Yes.
We have one, which I want you to come to, the Bad Trip Show.
Oh yeah.
At Shotgun Studios, about the art and everything.
Which one? Where is this
Friday.
Again? That's Friday.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to
Friday
the last
what?
one.
Friday the 3rd.
Okay.
Yes.
Because we're releasing this in a little bit, so I just want to make sure we get the dates right.
I was like,
yes.
Friday.
And then we have a comedy night out in the Valley with Ying. I'm actually hosting the show. I can post some stuff.
Yeah, I saw that.
But the Bad Trip show is gonna be fun. Last time was a blast. We had a bunch of wine.
Which already,
and we're talking about art, and some of the art was hilarious.
First of all, and what's so fascinating about this show is you were in an art gallery looking at art, and then your job was to
make fun of
it, and that's already.
And the artists were there.
Nathan, I'm just saying, does this not sound like us sitting and watching cooking shows and tearing those people to shreds?
Were any of them 12 years
Best
old?
nights ever.
Listen, there was a black fist in an electric chair with like a bowl over its head, and I was like, you can tell that whoever made that was white, because there's no black people in the history of blackness is going to put our black asses in a goddamn electric chair.
I remember always check our socials, because we try to promote anything that Anthony's doing, because it's always a good time. So do that. Just support each other. That's all I got to say. Something I have to say for this community is we need to keep talking, and it's nice that people are beginning to talk again. I think we've lost that art form. So I'm grateful for you all to be in the studio, to have some fun. You know, I've enjoyed this sparring, these two. Velma can ruin everything. She really can. But remember, come on out, meet Nathan in person in February 25th, and just come out and have a good time.
The myth, the man, the legend.
The myth, the man, the legend. I have to keep going lower, but I don't have your range.
Yeah, you don't.
No, the legend. So, love everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And, and also happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, he's turning 38.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. And we're having the open mic birthday show on Sunday.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Listen, support your indie artists and your local comedians right here. So, Nathan, thank you so much for taking the time. We will actually let you have your life back. But shout out to Brandon. Brandon, it'll be fun. Come with your fiance. There you go.
Yeah, Brandon.
See? Now, everybody, we'll send notes.
I can't even see him. I want to meet him now. Like, I can't.
Brandon's pretty awesome.
It's all going to be up to Brandon, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know. I don't think my tears would work on Brandon, so I can't manipulate him anyway. But just saying, you'll have a good time, I promise. But until next time, everybody, we'll see you later.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.